boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing on to you to someone who I really admire. Her name is Char-Town Entertainment, Young Mill, Miss Milligan, Mac Milligan, Mac Millen, our entertainment host, producer, author, speaking, business manager, special event feature on ABC, Fox, CBS, War in, it's called War, WHUR, Entertainment, FM Radio, Rolling Out Magazine, aka 1908. Let's find out.
Hey, how are
Good
you?
evening, sister. How are you? How
I'm
you
good.
doing?
I was sitting here. I
That's
didn't know how long your intro was. I'm putting on my earrings.
Don't worry. I had to hurry up and put on my makeup. I asked my daughter, I said, what time? And she said, this someone. I said, oh, snap. I want to be late. How you
So
doing?
you're in the Midwest.
Yes, I am Chicago, Illinois.
Okay. I like
Been here all
Char-Town.
my life.
Char-Town is dope.
Yes, it is. And I wanted to say to you, sister, salute to you because I'm giving you your roses because you admire me so strongly till I went up with my own podcast. This is going to be my first anniversary of my podcast interview. So today, in the month of April, I'm
Mhm.
celebrating the whole entire month of my first year anniversary. And
Oh,
for
wow.
those
That's
who
dope.
Yes, it is, and it's so amazing, it's so exciting meeting everybody. I had to give out the shout out to you. I see as some people in time in already. Dope Money 3. I wanted to say thank you. He also a rap artist that he will be on my podcast soon
Mhm.
too. But I was very interested about your book. Just only one thing.
Just one thing. Let me see if I
Just
have a
that.
copy of it somewhere. Let me pull that. Just one thing. Forward by Mike Epps. Can you see it?
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
I love it. Blue is my favorite color, even though I got on burgundy right now, but blue is actually my favorite color. And I was like, wow. And when you threw in the blue, it looked like a sparkly clouds. You know how the clouds look when it's
Mm-hmm.
so beautiful and cloudy in the sky? I thought about that book. I said, Lord, she got it so beautiful, all colored and blue. So can you tell me? How did you meet Mike Epps, Michael Kyer, all these great
300
comedians?
comedians. How did I meet 300 comedians?
How did you do it? How did you do it? How did you take the time out being where you are today with these comedians, actors, actresses?
Multi-platinum producers, playwrights, best-selling authors, Omar Tyree, Carl Weber. I work with some of Zane's authors. So it's been a long 26 years. This is 26 years having an entertainment and sports management company for me.
Let's see, 26 years. I'm probably about 22 at that time because I'm 45 right now. So, well,
I was
soon to
7 years old when I started. I'm sticking to that story.
and I'm not
Ain't nobody
ashamed.
calculating my age. Y'all ain't calculating my age on here, so put your calculators away.
Yes. And you also are director, sports figure. What did you love about sports? And did you ever play sports while you was in high school, grammar school,
I
college?
represent sports figures. I'm not an athlete naturally, but I represent national athletes, and I've worked with a lot of professional athletes. And well, to answer your question, let me answer the first one first. And so, write down the one you just asked me about, which ones I worked with or who I enjoyed the most. I started out. My book is actually titled "Just One Thing" for a reason, because I believe that one moment can change your life forever. And so 20 something years ago, before I started in the entertainment industry, I was a professional engineer. So my degrees are in engineering. I have an undergrad in industrial engineering, a master's in business management, a concentration in contract law, a master's in engineering. And so I was a professional engineer designing stuff for Department of Defense and for the troops. So I was designing tactical petroleum terminals, underground fuel terminals to get fuel to the troops. I mean, multi-million-dollar contracts right out of college. And so I was designing collapsible water tanks, fuel tanks. And so one day the book kind of starts out there. One day
Okay.
I was standing outside in my designer suit, double-breasted stilettos over these tanks I was designing, and looking at these Humvees. And I'm like, God, this ain't it. This ain't it. So my designer nails and everything, I always have my nails done. And so I was like, this ain't it. And so I was like, I don't know what you do have for me, but I believe greater is coming. And
Yeah.
I just prayed. I said, I was literally outside. I really was. And the book talks about this. And I said, God, I know they keep telling me it's not what you know, it's who you know. Please let me know somebody. And so that was my prayer. And when I came in, my first life-changing, unexpected moment happened. I listened to the voice of God, and the person who actually hired me, who had no clue who he really was until after I said that prayer. And I've been there for 6 months. And so I heard God tell me literally, like, go look that person up that you haven't seen since your interview. And I looked him up. Life started to change. And so I'm not going to give away the book or that chapter, but you won't believe who he was and what happened next. So then the book also talks about, you asked me about how I got into the entertainment industry. I talk about, I think by chapter 3, a defining moment for me in that perfecting my perspective on how I saw life and how I moved, because the biggest question I get asked is, how do you move? How do you meet so many people? How do you connect with so many people? And it's been organic. But that chapter 3 in my book, I talk about being 22, 20 something, and wanting and getting a divine message that I was supposed to meet with Colin Powell and Bob Johnson, and how I ended up even connecting with those men is a just one thing. So that's why that chapter is about that. But prior to meeting with them back to back and them becoming my mentors, I was in church. And the week before, I was supposed to meet with them. I was cool because I was like an academician, like academically, I ranked number 1 in the state. So I'm used to fanfare. I'm used to interviews at 17 years old. I'm used to that, so I felt invincible. There's nothing I can't do. I was never afraid of meeting with anyone or sitting down talking to whomever. I never had that fear. But when you are about to step into a new territory, you don't even know where life is carrying you, what God is about to do in your life, fear kicks in because you're human, or doubt kicks in just because you're human. And so I was getting ready to meet with Colin Powell, I think on Wednesday. I had a meeting with Bob Johnson on Tuesday. And like I told you, I'm like 22, 23 years old. And I hadn't given it a second thought. I'm like, well, I guess it's what God wants me to do. But I was in church. I mean, I think the day before that Saturday, and it was like back to back, I saw a newspaper article on Bob Johnson. It says celebrating 15 years of BET. Bob Johnson's now worth $700 million. And it rattled my little brain. I'm like, well, who am I to go up to the headquarters and the top floor and go meet with this man worth $700 million? You know what I mean? Who am I? I started having those thoughts. And I was like, next thing I'm going to meet with Colin Powell, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Who am I? You know what I mean? And I was just like, I started to feel inadequate. I started to feel unprepared, like we all do when we're getting ready to go into greatness and we don't even know what God has for us on the other side of the door. But we get scared to even go through the door, and start feeling unworthy on the path you're on. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I started feeling that way. Went to church. This is what chapter 3 is about. Went to church, and the pastor preached on, tell them I am sent you. And he talked about the story of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt, and how he was not only a stutterer, but he was afraid to go. And he was like, I'm not qualified. I can't even speak, clearly. And so, but when God, and the ultimate thing about the message was, when God has a plan for your life, many times you're unqualified, not qualified, and you feel like you don't even deserve to be in the position God is placing you in, but God has a plan. And also, not only when he got to Pharaoh, not only was he the Spirit of God with him, but Pharaoh was expecting him. So I took away from that sermon that I'm just walking in my destiny wherever I go, backstage, headquarters, corporate offices, Sony, BMG, outside the boxing rings, whatever. God has prepared that step for me. And not only is he with me, he prepared them. They knew I was coming. So that's how I started moving in the industry. I was like, you knew I was coming. God ordained this for my life. You knew I was coming. So I became fearless about everything, and that's how my perspective came together. And I was open to whatever God had for me. I said, God, if you show me a cracked door, I know you intend to kick it open. And so that's how I started living. I was like, I'm supposed to be on the other side of that door. If you show me the crack, I'm supposed to be inside. So that's how I started living.
And I noticed that how you so strong belief in God. And I interview a lot of people, and they was like, nah, I don't want to talk about religious. But I love when my sisters talk about God and put God first of what matter what they do in life.
Yeah.
Man, God will lead us the way. Like, I didn't know I was going to be here today doing what I'm doing right now. And it's like, that's it. That is it.
Yeah, I mean, God has a plan for your life. I think one of the biggest missteps that people make in terms of, finding their purpose, living their destiny, all of that, is that they look at other people as an example of what they can do. Your story is never going to look like somebody else. They already happened. You are the blueprint for everything God has for your life, for every success that's coming your way. You're the blueprint. You're the original copy. Nothing's going to look like your journey. So you can stop looking at Beyonce, Jay-Z, Will Smith, whoever. You can stop looking at them. What I would do is, that's not you. It's never going to be you, because you were created to do what you were created. You are the blueprint. You are the master plan for your journey. And so what you're about to do and the way you're about to do it has never happened before. And so you have to realize you're an original. And so sometimes it takes people a lifetime to realize they're an original. And, and a lot of times people look at other people's success and decide they could have success in that. I could sing like that. I could get up there and do that. No, you can't, because that's not your journey. I always use the example when I'm speaking on national platforms and conferences and things of that nature, and keynote speaker for different stuff. If like sometimes, people see your purpose long before you do. People see that thing they love about you, that they will support mindlessly long before you do, because you're sitting around tripping, looking at other people and thinking how you can fabricate your own success. Meanwhile, people are innately responding to something about you that they'd be willing to pay for, that they support mindlessly. They call you about all the time. I always use the example, you might be the best cake baker, but you busy thinking you need to be Beyonce on stage. I can sing, but you bake the best cakes in the world. And people keep, well, can you bake a cake? Well, Bonnie, can you hook this up? And you like, I'm singing. It's like, but no, do what people love about you. Do the thing that pays you and watch it take off. And so you might be an international baker. You might be the caterer on tour, traveling the world. You still have the same outcome, and you making money doing it. You're not frustrated talking about these haters out here ain't trying to see me prosper. No, you're not doing what you were called to do. It ain't no haters.
Haters around here, because I always tell people, how do you feel progressing? You could have been a school teacher. You could have been a mathematics school teacher, a college mathematics school teacher. But here you are today. How did that feel? Like, I could have been doing a school teaching. I love mathematics. I love reading. What was your favorite subject in school?
It was math and science. That's how I became an engineer. And so I literally did graduate at the top of the state, not just at my high school, not just valedictorian. I graduated #1 in the state with a cumulative 4.33 grade point average out of high school. And so And so I got more scholarships than the whole high school class combined. And I worked diligently in high school. It wasn't hard because math and science come easy to me, but I talked about that in the book too, because there was a defining moment there where I had to get comfortable with what God was assigning to my life, and so I didn't want to, you don't want to stand out, and I talk about it in the book because it's a defining moment, and I think
Right.
it's something most people can relate to, peer pressure. And in our community, there's a quest for ignorance sometimes,
Yeah.
where it's popular to be stupid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And if you have good grades or you doing stuff or you oh, you think you better than us. You think you blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's us. That's us. I was like, what are you doing? But there was a defining moment when somehow the students, I didn't even know what, I wasn't phased at all. I didn't know anything about it. They found out before I did, but they said I was in the running to be the number one in the class the next year, valedictorian. I didn't even know. I didn't have a choice. I come from 3 generations of educators. They're like, you better do your work. So I didn't have a choice. So I didn't know what was going on. But the kids found out first because a white boy was number 2. And he was like, I'm going to beat her. And he spread the rumor that I was number 1. I didn't even know. He was keeping up with it. And I didn't even know what a valedictorian was. I didn't know what any of that stuff. I hadn't paid attention to it before. Rankings and everything. And so he started spreading that rumor, and there was a shifting in the atmosphere. Throughout my education from 7th grade, I started getting a lot of academic awards and stuff like that. I would hide my grades because I wanted to fit in. I didn't want people to think, I had straight A's. I mean, because you would be ostracized, you would be ridiculed, you'd be called a nerd, you'd be called this. I just wanted to live. I didn't want to be called any of that stuff, and, oh, you think you better than us, you think you smarter than us. And so there was a lot of that, and so there was a shift though when that white boy started saying, I'm going to beat her. All the Black kids said, that's our girl, she's going to beat you. And it became a competition because I looked like them. And I represented something that maybe they couldn't relate to, but they were proud of because I looked like them. And I realized it wasn't about me making good grades. It was about having a voice and being an example to someone else that you can do whatever you want to do. You can say what you want to say. You can, grow to whatever level you want to grow. You can be the first in history to do something. You know what I mean? And so it became about them. I didn't want to let them down because I looked like them. And they were now proud that we looked alike.
And I just one thing I wanted to tell you, because when I read your article and you spoke about a classmate of yours or good friend of yours who helped you to get where you needed to be in life, was Joe Claire. When you spoke about Joe Claire, I was like, that got to be amazing. That has to be amazing.
Joe is he's always, I talk about him a little bit in the book because it was like he's always been just my buddy, like my brother. We've been friends since we were little kids. We grew up in the same neighborhood. So he was grown and very much established by the time we worked on anything together. I was very established in the industry too, but he's my friend that I've never lost touch with ever, and I mean, literally, like, since childhood, we've always been in touch. No matter where we go in the world, no matter where he moves to, we're always in touch. And he's the only person I've never, ever, ever lost touch with. And I was even there when he pledged Kappa Alpha Psi in college. I looked up, he was at Morgan. I'm like, what you doing here? I didn't even know he was coming to Morgan. So, but yeah, he's a dear friend. And I met D. Ray Davis because of Joe Claire. He introduced me when D. Ray was first out of Chicago. I think his first time to LA, we met outside of the Ha Ha Cafe, I believe, in Hollywood. And there are a few other people. Joe Claire has a good heart. We've always been really good friends. Super proud of him. Yeah, he's family. So yeah.
Oh, I see. Now, getting back, I've seen that you work with numerous comedians, musicians, produce some of them.
Yes.
When I say produce, she literally behind the scene, making some of the beats, making the hottest beats, ever, guys.
Well, no,
I
I
mean,
don't make the beats, but I am a musician. So there's a difference.
well, at least I got
So
one
that's a
thing right.
different life. But I do a lot of consulting, and I do consult on the music also sometimes. Yeah.
No, and you also played the piano.
Yes, I was an accomplished pianist, classically trained, and a minister of music for 2 churches for 12 years. Yes, starting at 11 years old. Yes, I got my first choir at 11 years old.
Awesome. That is amazing.
Yes,
Because I
I
used
am
to play
instrumental to
piano.
my music artists. I've had several gospel recording artists I've worked with, several R&B artists I've worked with. So I am instrumental in terms of providing feedback on things. And so one of my
And
gospel recording artists said, I love, you manage our careers, but you also know how to give instruction musically. And that's a rare combination. You can listen to a track and say, you need to do this with this and this and that. And you don't just, critique, but you tell us how to fix it. And
right.
so I have a highly trained ear, and most people don't know, because most people, I don't talk about what I do. I just do.
And and I guess you probably like, wow, how did she know that? Well, this is what happened when we do our research and do a Google Queen and asking questions, because you
Yeah.
and I have a lot, well, not a whole lot, but we got something similar alike, because I used to be a piano player. I
Mm-hmm.
used to play it by ear. My mom and my dad set me at the piano at the age of 2. Well,
Okay.
actually, I was at the age of 1, and my dad had me play a piano, and he play a note, and I'll go right behind and play that same note. And he told my mom it's something about me that
Mm-hmm.
he really liked, because I played the piano
Right.
at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually got my first lesson at the age of 10, I think, 10 or 11. But
Okay.
anyway, speaking about sports,
Okay.
who is your favorite team?
I don't really have a favorite team. I guess if I was going to choose basketball, I don't follow it as heavily as I used to. I used to have season tickets and all of that, but life has gotten busy. But I guess I would choose the Lakers. I've always had an affinity for them since the beginning, since last 20,
LA
30 years.
Lakers
I've always had an
forever. LA
affinity.
Lakers
Yeah, I've always had an
forever.
affinity for them. My favorite clients, I would say, is people think because I've worked with so many comedians, and I started out with comedians back in the 90s, they think they're my favorite clients. No, they're the most familiar. You know what I mean? And I was there for the infancy of so many careers. When people,
Yes.
before they even had a career, I was there for so many people. I think people think comedians are my favorite, but they're the most familiar. My favorite clients are my musical artists and my sports figures. My first, I'm trying to think who came first. I can't remember if I think I started working with the Mayweathers first. I think I met them first. And yeah, when God does it, he does it that way. So I have a business
Exactly.
associate and people, you asked me how I met some people, so I'll give little anecdotes, but I met this guy, and he helped me out with my music conference. I produced the largest music conference ever in the DC area back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And that kind of started my path on teaching the business of music. So I've been an adjunct professor at several colleges and universities and performing arts schools, teaching the business of music. I got my start with the music industry because one of my big brothers from college managed Drew Hill. He still does manage Drew Hill. So he called me one day, and he was like, I need your help. I'm getting ready to launch this record label, and I need help with all the groups that are signed to me and blah, blah, blah. And he emailed me because I thought it was a mistake. So I emailed him back, and I said, you accidentally sent this to me, because he had the top music group in the industry at the time. And I was like, Drew Hill sold like, I don't know what, 14 million records or something. And I was like, who's he talking
Wow.
to? So I sent him the email back. It's like, you accidentally sent this to me. I was doing my thing in comedy and working with comedians and stuff, but I ain't know nothing about the music industry. I was like, who is he talking to? So I sent the email back. I said, you accidentally sent this to me. He said, no, I'm talking to you. So I ended up working with him, and we ended up working this indie label together. I was vice president of marketing, met a whole bunch of people in the music industry and beyond. And got in tight with a lot of people in radio across the country as I was helping break, the newer artists and stuff like that. And so those relationships continued. So then I ended up producing this huge music conference, which opened up more relationships nationwide. I became the go-to person on the business of music, and people were talking about, the business plans I was putting together for different entities to get their labels funded and things of that nature. And so it kind of spread. The rumor kind of spread, like she's that chick in music, and she knows the business inside and out. So I just lost you, I think. I don't know. You might have switched screens. But can you still hear me? Can you still hear? Oh, she's in the matrix. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. I was trying to press the mute button, and I got on nails, and it's like, no.
Well, I've done StreamYard enough. I was like, she's either in the matrix or she tried to switch to like the single screen back and forth.
Yes, and CTS Vision Foundation Incorporation. You help those children.
Yes.
You help children that had tried in the low income community, and you help these young people, and that brought
come true.
My eyes when I saw that. I said, where is that? When I needed it, when I wanted to become something, I had to wait till 20 plus some years later to where this is what I needed to be. And I just wanted to know, how did the children create their own character, create their own voice, create their,
This dog is having a time.
I'm sorry, I don't have no musical with him, but also with you help them with their careers.
Okay.
How did that made you feel when you found out some of them had, created their own, built their careers up into where they at today?
Well, it's been very rewarding. I started the foundation. Let's see, what is this? This is 2022. I had hired somebody to put together the plan for me, like the 501c3 paperwork for Unlimited Funding Foundation. And then I think we got our letter December of 2015. So this is going on our 7th year of existence, but the vision for it, literally, it's called CTE Vision Foundation, but the vision came when I produced that music conference. And I was traveling around different high schools in Duke Ellington and other places. And, actually, that's where I met Raheem Devon long before he had a career. People like, well, where do these relationships come from? I met Raheem Devon when he was at Duke Ellington. And I was about to produce the largest music conference ever. And I remember the name initially because it was so unique. And he was the first person to register for my conference after I came to Duke Ellington. And so I just remember the name. And so then, I watched his career grow, and I watched him reemerge, 7, 8, 10 years later. So I didn't think he knew me though. And so what happened was his business manager, I think this by the time Customer Serves, his first platinum album came out, his business manager called me and we did dinner. And so he said, yo, I want you to work with Raheem on some stuff. And I said, okay. He said, I'm going to link y'all tonight at the Bilal concert. So he took me to the Bilal concert. And so then he walked me over to Raheem, and he was like in a corner, I guess, trying to be incognito. He had a hood on, and he was like kind of crouched down. And I crouched down beside him, and we were talking. And so he was like, yo, my people been in my ear about you for a minute. He said, let's work. And so he said, you have a business card. So I handed him my business card. And this is like, maybe 10 years ago or something. I don't know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. And maybe a little longer. I lose track of time. But I know Customer Service was out. His first album was out, Customer Service and all of that. And so first or second album, I can't remember. But I handed him my business card. He's like, oh, shit, I know who you are. And he was like, you taught me the business of music. I went to your conference. I don't forget business cards. And so he said, oh, hell yes. So that's how we reconnected. So we've been in touch ever since. So, yeah, I knew a lot of these guys before they became who they became. So most of them I knew at the infancy of their careers, or, helped them in some way, understanding the business or consulting or educating, mentoring. And I wanted to perpetuate that. To answer your question about the foundation, I saw how much lack of knowledge there was, how much people were being taken advantage of in contracts in the music industry. They didn't understand what they were signing. They didn't understand what they were getting into. They didn't understand the business side of it. They just want to perform, and they're being, raped and pillaged, for lack of a better word, because that's what it is. You're being taken advantage of. You're being, money's being taken, stolen. They don't understand the ins and outs. And I was like, I want to educate young people. And I had such a fast start in this industry, an unexpected start in this industry. I was like, everybody's story is not mine, but I want to be the person that bridges the gap between your vision and the reality. And so I said, I'm going to use my relationships, because God is blessing with thousands of relationships over the last 20 something years. I want to use my relationships to be a blessing to young people, especially those who are disenfranchised, financially struggling in impoverished areas, or, undeserved areas, or have physical challenges. There's one young kid, Jose Andre, performed at my first Jokes and Jazz I produced. A show I produced where national comedians would come and perform, national music artists would come and perform, and then I'd let kids share the stage with these people they would never meet, and they would show their talent. This young boy, blind from birth, has physical ailments, but a masterful keyboardist. Somebody told me about him. I went and saw him. I booked him on the next Jokes and Jazz. He turned it out and was directing the national musicians who came. He's like, let's start it over. And he's like 10 years old. And I'm like, what is this phenom I have on stage? So it's those moments where I realize that these kids are blessing me. I'm not being a blessing to them. I get to witness greatness, at its infancy, when it's just starting out. So it's been the biggest blessing to me. And now he's performing all over the world, literally jazz shows in the Kennedy Center, and having his own concerts, sold out concerts, 7 years later, but to see his greatness evolve and be even a small part of that, and advise his mom, on business things and things of that nature. These kids are a blessing to me, and being able to give them that opportunity to share stages with people they wouldn't normally meet is just a small thing to me, because, if God allows you to be a blessing, then to me, that's the blessing, that you can even be used to do something to change somebody's life. So it's humbling for me.
Wow. Wow. And that is, like I said, it is amazing how children get to learn what not to do, not to get blackballed, not to have somebody cheat you out of your own vision, where your own, as they say, your own project.
Learn the business, learn how it works. I always I've never lost a client, thank God. But in 26 years, sometimes you evolve, sometimes you move into new projects and stuff like that, but I haven't lost any relationships. And that's a miracle in life, much less this industry. But I've always had the focus of educating my clients. Of course, I'm going to negotiate your deals. Of course, I'll look out for you business-wise, but I want you to be intelligent enough at the business table where you know what's happening on your behalf. You might not understand everything, but I want you to be intelligent enough where you can raise your hand and ask a question, where you can raise your hand and get clarity, and some people try to keep artists in the dark that, this is technical stuff. No, it's not technical. That's their livelihood. That's their career. They need to know enough to be able to ask questions on their behalf or clarification. So I always try to educate my clients. I don't have anything to lose. You know what I mean? I'm here to help your vision become real, period.
Yeah.
If that's not, and a lot of people, that's not the nature of this industry. Some people ride other people's success. Some people are nothing if something happens to that artist, because all you're doing is riding their coattail and hoping to get some of their money, and that's not my story.
That's how you became the big CEO in the industry. That's how you became who you are today, because you helped them build their brand. That's the name of it. Build a brand, build what they started out from. Don't never give up. You had to make them keep going and keep going and keep going till they success in their careers. Oh my God.
Yeah, and the thing is, people focus on the wrong things. I've never focused on money. I always feel like money is inevitable when you're the best at what you do. period.
Right.
Why would I
Right.
focus on money? I'm gonna get paid. Why would I focus on that? But so many people are like, well, I gotta do this with the money, the money. Well, then you must not be the best at what you do, because people are gonna pay for what they value.
Exactly.
To become valuable, you want to worry about money. How about that?
Exactly. And me and my godmother, we were just speaking about that too. She said, no, you got a valuable. Don't worry about the numbers. The money gonna come whenever it gonna come. But you have to be valuable to who you are. And I thank my godmother Roundtree, who just popped up, and I wanted to say thank you, godmama. Now I'm hearing it from somebody else.
You must be. Are you on YouTube or are you on Facebook?
I'm on YouTube.
Okay, because
I
I
don't
clicked the Facebook link, so I can't see the comments. Normally, I can see the comments, so I didn't know which platform you were on, so I just clicked Facebook because I'm not used to being on this side of producing StreamYard. So
and I
I'm
want
rarely
to
on
say,
StreamYard, so I didn't know what to pick. I was like, "What's this?"
well, I'm always on YouTube.
Okay.
I stay on YouTube because I'm still trying to. Like I said, this is my first year anniversary. Still trying to know the game. Okay. Don't judge me. Don't judge me, ladies and
No,
gentlemen.
I mean, I think, people are always asking me, they they say I inspired them to start their podcast. And I was like, thank you, I think. But, my two shows are, It Is What It Is, How Men Think. I've had 190 men on there to date. Entertainers, sports figures, music artists, multi-platinum producers, everybody, Raheem Devon, Cisco from Drew Hill, George Wallace, the legend's been coming through, DC Curry, Tony Rock, Ali Sadiq, Mike Hill, Malik Youssef. They've been coming through, and so we kick it every Tuesday and talk about love, life, relationships from the male perspective, uncut. I ask all the questions I think women should be asking. And see how men really think, and see how they really feel. Women say men don't talk. I bet you they do. I got 190 who've been talking for an hour and a half every week, uncut. I bet you they do talk.
What they failed to realize, we didn't school them so much till they started thinking like us. Think like a woman, act like a woman. I think like a man. I mean,
well, I really think that men are very vocal when you're listening, and I think sometimes people listen to speak next, but they don't listen to understand. I ask questions to understand, not be understood. I'm just all ears every Tuesday, and this is your platform. I'm gonna throw a question out here. Y'all go for it. And so I'm not there to correct them, edit. I say in my intro every week, I started this platform originally as a radio show 11 years ago. I produced a hit radio show. And then I rebooted as a Zoom show during the pandemic. So that this part is new, but I've already had a hit show called It Is What It Is. It was a radio show, and you couldn't see the guests.
That was WHUR.
I've been a guest on WHUR a lot, but my platform was on WPBR radio, which was based in Baltimore, and it was one of the first live stream radio shows. And so we launched with 40,000 listeners. And so that was back 11 years ago. So I'm pretty much a regular on WHUR. I've been featured. I think I've had a couple of times when I was an hour on there, and the only guest, which is not too often. But WHUR has shown a lot of love for my book, for my events. And I mean, they even called me like for sporting stuff because of my connection with the athletes and things of that nature, and what I thought about like the Sha'Carri Richardson thing. And, because I do so much sports management as well. Oh, and I was telling you, I think my first clients were the Mayweathers. I guess I hit the ground running. And I had a business associate who was related to them. And I didn't know that. We hadn't talked about it. I didn't know. And so we've been working together for about 7-8 years on different stuff. And he was introduced to me inadvertently from somebody else, and we hit it off, and we met right before my music conference, and he helped make that music conference huge. And we just became like the best of friends, best of associates. I worked on stuff for him. He helped me with stuff where my relationships, if I didn't have a relationship with someone, he did. And he would make that call. If he needed something business-wise or a contract drafted or releases done or whatever, I would take care of that. So we complimented each other, And one day he just called me And you asked me how I meet certain people. He called me. It was like, you have a meeting with Floyd Mayweather Sr. in 20 minutes. He's going to call you. I was like, Floyd, who? And so he was like, he said, the father's about to call you in 20 minutes. And I was like, okay. I said, what are we going to talk about? He said, just be you. I was like, okay. So I answered the phone and we sat there and talked for an hour. And so I was sitting there talking boxing, what I remember from when I was little. and when he was with Sugar Ray Leonard. And I was like, I was only like 4, but I remember when you were boxing Sugar Ray Leonard. He was like, nah, baby girl, that ain't the way it went. I was like, well, I thought, and he was like, baby girl, this is what happened. And we were just going back and forth. And so when I got off the phone, my business associate called me. He's like, he loves you. He was like, you got a new client. And I was like, okay. And so then and a couple of weeks later, he called me and he said, Roger's about to call you. And so I was like, Roger Mayweather? He's like, yeah. I said, okay. And so I sat there and talked to Roger for an hour or more. And he was asking me questions business-wise. And he was like, I think Floyd Jr. is going to retire in 5-6 years. He said, what do you think in terms of, transitioning him into that new phase of his career? We're talking about all kinds of stuff. And so I gave him my best ideas. And he said, yeah, I like the way you think. Let's work. And so then I think maybe 6 months later, he was like, Junior's getting ready to call you. I was like, Floyd Jr.? And he was like, yeah. So I talked to him. So then I think I've been working with them for about maybe 5 years off and on private projects, consulting. And I went out to Vegas on stuff. And, I worked the World Boxing Coalition with Floyd Sr. and Roger. And then I was, I think it was right after a fight, and Senior called me. Floyd Senior called me and said, I'm not going to make it to DC, but my younger brother, Jeff, and Roger are coming. He said, so you'll be with them tonight. And so I said, okay. And so I said, well, I told Senior, I said, I haven't met Jeff yet. And he was like, well, you're going to meet him tonight. so I met him, and so we hit it off. So we've been friends ever since. And so that's how I ended up being connected to them. And so actually Jeff Mayweather, who's the youngest brother, he's a 4-time international boxing trainer. He's had 4 international champions. He came on my show, Just One Thing, on IG, and we talked about 1 hour and 40 minutes about how I connected with the Mayweathers and, that connection between me and them and his career. And it was a dope conversation, so I got so much love for them. Really nice men. A blessing I couldn't have seen coming, but I couldn't have seen my whole career coming because every relationship has happened that way. It's been super organic, super unexpected. I would love to tell people, I struggled or, then I snuck back to the boxing ring. I would love to know. I was just sitting minding my own business. And so, and God kept sending relationships and clients.
Your name popped up several times because my daughter, she's a boxer. She's been a boxer ever since she was 4 years old.
Okay.
And Jeff Mason, which is Floyd Mayweather's godfather.
Jeff Mason. Okay.
You probably heard that name before from Chicago at Tennis Park. Okay.
No.
Let me tell you, my daughter finally got a chance to meet her mentor, which is Floyd Mayweather, and Jeff. Both Jeff came up there.
Jeff Mayweather or Jeff Mason?
Jeff Mayweather.
Okay, Jeff Mayweather. Because you said Mason. Is Jeff Mason a different person?
Jeff Mason is Floyd Mayweather's godfather.
Okay, I don't know who he is. I know Jeff Mayweather. Actually, I know Junior. And so, okay, I'm following the story now.
They've been on the road together, been boxing forever. And when
the only other trainer I met was Floyd Sr.'s best friend, Lamar. And so he was always there for Floyd Jr.'s fights. So there would be like either Roger or Senior when Senior took over, and Lamar would be the other older gentleman on the other side.
Yes.
And he's entering the ring or walking through the crowd or whatever he was doing.
And now I think Floyd Mayweather said either this year or next year he's going to sponsor my daughter.
That's a blessing.
Shout out to Floyd Mayweather. You got to excuse my dog. I'm sorry. I do apologize for the dog barking. Any noise you hear, he always, he wanted to get his, he want to get his clout too. So sometimes I'll bring him, but I'm not gonna do that today. But yes, but that's what I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
When you had doing all these interviews with these young men,
Mm-hmm.
came up with your own podcast with the men speaking their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
What was the first insight that came into your mind when you heard the men speaking about how women should treat men and how should the women, come together so they can be together? How did that influence you, like, as a woman, when you hear men speaking about relationships?
Well, like I said, I've been in this industry for 26 years. 99% of my clients are men. So these aren't new conversations. I've traveled, I've toured, I've worked with so many men. It's not even funny. So I've had these conversations for over 2.5 decades. It was just, is it going to convey live? That's the miracle to me, that they are just as transparent and just as comfortable kicking it with me live as they are when we're just backstage or in the green room or working or whatever, And so I know I've always had an uncanny connection with people, but especially men. People feel instantly comfortable. And so the fan mail I get is, oh my God, you humanize celebrities. Because at first, all I had was celebrities on. And so I said, no, I humanize men. I think that if they're celebrities, you put them on too high of a pedestal. And I said, I think if they're your everyday man, you don't put them on a high enough pedestal. You know what I mean? In terms of understanding them as human beings. I'm not saying worship when I say that, but people put celebrity men in a different category. So I need you to see that they're human, that they hurt, they bleed, they have the same problems, frustrations, confusion as the man that you're dating. It's the same. You know what I mean? And so you put one on too high of a pedestal and the other one you don't honor enough. You know what I mean? And so they're all the same. It's just they might have a talent or a gift or something God called them to do on a national or international platform, but they're more human than most. They're more regular than the people you're probably dating. That's what people don't understand about entertainers. They are super regular, but you created that moment for that image in your mind. You created that. So you know what I mean? And so that's what I think the show has shown the most, that they bleed. They put on pants, like my dad used to say, one leg at a time. And so they're very, very human. They experience the same heartache and everything. And so the transparency live has been the most beautiful thing. And seeing them be just as candid on my platform as they are with me one-on-one when we're just talking. So I'm honored by that. I think one of my favorite episodes was Malik Yusuf.
Yeah.
And he was so candid and so transparent. And most of these guys I've known, most of their careers, where I just met Malik like 2 weeks before and was like, will you do my show? And so he was like, yes, queen. And so I was like, I called him and we hadn't had a conversation or anything. He was super busy working on, I guess, Donda and some other stuff at the time. And I called him and he was like, yes. I said, is this Malik? It is. I said, this is Char. Hey, what's up, queen? And I said, are you ready for tomorrow? I'm ready. I said, okay. I said, if you have any questions, let me know. Got you. That was a whole conversation. I didn't know what to expect when we went live. So he was so candid and so transparent. I mean, I didn't know why I wanted to cry. I had no commercial to cut to. And I told him afterwards, I said, thank you for blessing my platform. I said, but thank you for your candor and your transparency. It was so touching. And I said, he said, you make it easy to be transparent. And that's what he said. I take that as an extreme compliment, because so many of the almost 200 men have said that they love that platform. And they were like, that's so dope. I've never experienced a conversation like that, and then they hit me up, like, because they might be in the same industry, but they don't know each other. Like, yo, link us. Yo, dude was dope. Yo, let's work, or whatever. They just seeing like they're bonding, and I think that's something to acknowledge about men. They might have their own way of sizing up people, see how cool they are. But for the most part, these men that I just put together, don't even tell them they're going to be on together. until I put out a promo. I don't announce who you're going to be on with or whatever. I just put the promo out. And, after I get yes from everybody. And so they find out when everybody else find out who they're going to be on with. And to see them meeting for the first time live in some cases and bonding, and just exchanging ideas, I think that's different. Sometimes you don't get that energy when you bring strange women together. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I'm getting it.
I don't like her. You know what I mean? But they ain't bonded and come together as one. These dudes have some camaraderie because they think, they might not know each other, but there's a common bond between men. And it's not how Black men think, because I've had white men on there, Hispanic men, and I'm going to do a better job of integrating more, because I want people to see how instantly men, no matter what their color, background, gender, not gender, racial, breakdown is, I wanted them to see how quickly men bond and how they find commonality and how they think about the basis of life, how they think about the basis of relationships, how they think about the basis of what they feel men should be, and how quickly they bond.
Oh, one thing from last week, when I first saw you, and I said, Ali Sadiq, let me see what he's talking about. And when Ali Sadiq said, what most women don't do, it draws up. Here go the light bulb. Here come the light bulb now. I'm like, what we don't do,
Yeah.
And he said,
oh, you watched the show. You watched the show of Ali on. Okay, because I was like, when was Ali on? Oh, he was on my show. Okay, got you. I was like, what show? I've done so many lives lately. I didn't know what you were talking about. I was like, we were on a lot. We were on Teddy Carpenter, Rodney Perry, but we didn't talk about relationships. But I know what you're talking about now. Got you.
What women don't do. I'm like, Ali Sadiq, what do we don't do? And I'm always in the text. I'm like, you know what? This young lady I need to interview, because she didn't got Ali Sadiq on here. I'm taking notes. I'm writing down. Here go my notepad right here. So I'm taking notes. I'm like, what do we don't do? Let me go ahead and chime in on this. Maybe I can prove what I need to learn. And he said, women just don't listen. When he said that, I was like, true. I'm like, that's a fact. Some of us women out talk the men. We need to listen. We need to be how they feel. We not all in their pockets, how much. It ain't about how much money. I don't care about money. It's all about the mentality of a man's mind.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to see. And I had to salute you on that, sis, because I was like, man, she got all of, she cracking on her. I gotta get her on that. She is outstanding. I mean, you got brothers. You had the fraternity brothers, something I always trying to be in. But I ain't got the mentality now. I mean, here I am.
I was just trying to think of a way to keep myself motivated, because I always say, for me, and I try to encourage other people, but the key to my 26-year career of, I believe, unbridled success has been blowing my own mind. I ain't thinking about nobody else when I'm producing. I'm thinking about what impresses me. And when I look at a show, or I look at a product, or I look at a client, or I look at a national release, or I look at a book release, or I look at an album release, or I look at a comedy special, and I was like, yeah. If I'm impressed, then I did a good job. I'm the only barometer. So I've spent 26 years blowing my own mind. I book shows for me. When I bring on my guests, I'm like, I want to see what so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so look like together live. Let's talk about it. That's how I book it. I'm not thinking what the audience might like. I mean, so I think on that show with Ali, I had my bestie, Tony Rock, Doug Williams, and Ali Sadiq. Then another show, I combined Tahir Moore, one of the social media kings, and Rodney Perry, and multi-platinum producer Nate Jolly. I was like, let me see what this conversation, I'm blowing my own mind. And so I was like, when I booked D-Ray Davis, Cisco from Drew Hill. I was like, let me put him on with D-Ray Davis and Rip Michael, see what happens. I mean, I'm just sitting there blowing my own mind and making up conversations. I'm like, let me see what this looked like. So Cisco said when he got on, he's like, we were all friends when you scheduled this. I was like, nope. I just be praying and putting stuff together. I'm like, that looked right. So I just put people together,
Huh? I have a quote that you said, and it caught to my attention when I read your article. It's like, secondly, I am unique. I call it a superpower because I am those rare women who's actually accepted part of the boys club. Now, that's what I call a woman's power of a queen. Yeah. I have to say, that's deep. And then when you
get backstage and men talk freely in front of me, and they'll be like, at first, because men, they're always respectful, and men, contrary to what some women think, men are extremely perceptive. So they read in the room. You know what I mean? And so they'll start a story and they realize, like, is this appropriate in front of the only woman back here? You know what I mean? And they'll look, and somebody, usually an A-lister or a headliner, will say, that's just Char. You can say anything, talk to her about anything. I mean, that's a different level of, trust and candor and feeling comfortable. You know what I mean? I feel honored by that. You know what I mean? That I see everybody as human. Humanity is what's missing. Someone asked me the other day on a podcast, what do you think is missing from society? Humanity. Because we're all human. People look at people like, I don't have nothing in common with them. You're human. You do too. So I've always been able to speak with people of different walks of life, different outlooks, different races all over the world. I bond with people internationally because I'm looking at the human experience. We do have something in common. I bet you woke up this morning. We do have something in common. I bet you somebody close to you has died before. We do have something in common. I bet you piss and shit like everybody else. I bet you do. We do have something in common. I bet you get sick every now and then. People look, we don't have nothing. You do too. There's a human experience. I bet you know what it likes to be hurt. I bet you know what it's like to be hurt. We do have something in common. You have something in common with everybody on two legs. I don't care where they come from, what they look like, who they are. You're somebody's child too. You got that in common. At some point, you were somebody's child. So you have the human experience. I think if we looked at life like that and we moved in humanity instead of ego, we would be a whole different world. And so I don't move in ego. People are always like, you're so down to earth, and I don't know, I guess they read my whatever or watch stuff. I'm human. And my dad taught me, maybe he had an inkling of what life was going to be, but he instilled certain life lessons in me from the time I could understand what he was saying, 3-4 years old. And one of the biggest lessons that stuck in my brain, and it processed as I got older. He would requote Rudyard Kipling to me. Now, Rudyard Kipling said, if you can walk with kings and queens and never lose the common touch, then you'll be a man. My dad would always say, if you can walk with kings and queens and never lose the common touch, that's when you'll be a woman. Don't ever lose the common touch. Don't ever lose your ability to relate with everybody, no matter what they do, who they are, what they look like. You treat people with humanity, no matter where God takes you. And I've never lost that. So if people are like, oh, you so down to earth. No, I'm so human. And I know where my blessings come from. So you don't act crazy. You don't step out of line. You don't lash out at people. Not that I'm perfect, but you move in a way where you treat people where you want to be treated. You honor people where you want to be honored. Do you get angry? Yes. Do you do this? But there's certain things you won't do out of humanity.
Yes, that's so true.
You know what I mean?
Prime example, what just happened this weekend. I'm so I'm so disappointed. I think it could have been handled in a different way.
It didn't have to be handled. He looked like an idiot, and I'm saying it. He looked like an idiot. And I lost any little bit of respect I did have for him as a person, not even as an actor. For you as a breathing human being. I lost whatever respect I had, because you don't walk on stage and assault someone and then get to go sit down like it's all good. I lost respect for anybody who co-signed that mess. Because if you've ever been to a high-end awards show or one of the larger ones on recorded live, you know how orchestrated things are in terms of scripted and wanting it to run like clockwork, because millions of dollars are being expended. You don't get to walk around and then take that long walk to go slap somebody. Who was it? Who let that happen? Who let that happen? And then let him go sit back down. Huh?
Then when the security guards was there, I mean, the security
I don't
guards,
know. I have no idea. So I can't even speculate who did what. I just know, I just wanted to know who let that happen, and why didn't anybody check on him? He was assaulted. Now you got, people running up checking on this nut job, but you don't have anybody checking on the person who was assaulted. What kind of world do we live in? What kind of world do we live in? Where this man is just up there doing his job, and it wasn't even an insult. And I think people are idiotic for thinking it was an insult. The comparison, and probably, I'm betting, I don't know for sure, but I'm betting written by the show writers, because they write those transitions for award shows to kind of keep things flowing, make the entertainers feel involved. They pick or, jab or, say little funny things to the A-listers, because it's a stuffy event, and that's their way of keeping levity. So the reference to G.I. Jane had absolutely nothing to do with her, necessarily her short haircut directly. It was that she was dressed like a badass. Demi Moore played a badass and played an amazing role in G.I. Jane 1. It was a compliment to your fledgling ass career for him to say you would be, killer in G.I. Jane 2 or whatever he said. You know what I mean? And that's why whoever wrote it as a transition. It was a compliment. You ain't working on nothing. It was a compliment.
It was.
Her alopecia. Y'all can't spell alopecia. And nor do you know what it is. And I said on another podcast, I don't know what that woman's dealing with, but I know she's had a buzz cut since high school. She's been rocking it off and on her entire life. That same look. And I do know, because I have family members and other people who have alopecia. There are two types. I also have family members who have female pattern baldness. That's a different thing. But there's two types. There's the alopecia where you lose hair everywhere. You don't have eyebrows. You don't have nothing. That's one form. The other form, you have patches missing, none of which, is visible on her head, because you can see all her hair. She just has a buzz cut. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, well, I don't know what kind of alopecia you got, ma'am. But, if you have women's pattern baldness, I don't like none of it in my family, because I know women who have female pattern baldness. And it's, a hereditary thing passed really from the mother's side. So the men in the family get that pattern baldness, but women also get it. It's a hereditary thing. So that's also not a battle, though, per se. It's an inconvenience. You might not like it, but it's not a battle. Most of our fathers or men in our family have gone bald. They ain't battling it. You know what I mean? Women go bald every day. I know so many women who are bald or losing their hair. It's not a battle like cancer. You're not going to die. And there are also solutions where people don't even know how prevalent it is. That's what I was saying. Probably 60 to 70% of women, once you hit the age of 50, are starting to lose their hair in one form or another, whether it's from some type of condition, whether it's from stress, whether it's from chemicals, whether it's from, just aging. It's a prevalent thing, especially with Black women. So why is it a battle when you decide you want to champion someone physically assaulting someone else? Now it's become a battle, but there's so many Black women who are dealing with it right now. It wasn't a battle before.
It sure was.
Cancer is a battle. Sarcoidosis is a battle. COPD is a battle. Something that could take you out unexpectedly. It's not desirable to lose your hair per se, but it's not going to take you out. You're not battling anything. So, calm down. You know what I mean? But so many women, my point is, so many women in my family are dealing with hair loss and other things. And, I have close friends. You don't even know they have alopecia. They don't see it as a battle. It's an inconvenience, but it's not a battle. We need to stop overusing words. I don't know what it is, but it's not a battle. There's
It's
so
not.
many women dealing with it silently and or just dealing with it because it's a fact of life. Sometimes your hair thins. But her hair doesn't look thin. She cut it off
And she been cutting her hair off.
for
She cut
20
it. She
years. For 20,
long.
30 years. She's been wearing that same style since high school off and on. And
Yeah.
your mom wears the same style. She still lives in Baltimore and comes to like the Comedy Factory. Your mom looks the same. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, ma'am? You
That
know,
part.
I'm a firm believer, and I don't know what they're dealing with, but I know they're dealing with something. I
Yeah.
believe that to me, and it looked like he was having some type of something, but he also said, on his social media beforehand, tonight we're choosing chaos. And it popped up on my timeline because so many of my friends liked it. I don't follow him, but so many of my friends liked it. You know what I mean? I don't really, I don't sit there and read. It popped up first because it was the number one liked or commented on post or whatever. So I'm not big on, going through and reading social media or whatever. But I actually mute most people. Even if I follow them, I mute them because I don't want to see their posts. So I think he's muted because I don't want to see his posts. I might have followed him when I first got on just, because. But if I'm following, I don't think I am, though. If I am, he's muted. So I don't see it unless people start commenting on it, and then it'll say so-and-so commented on this or whatever. But I was like, what does "we're choosing chaos tonight" mean? Who says that before you go to an international live event? You're choosing chaos. What does that even mean?
And
So
I'm sorry, sis. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, those are the questions I had. I can't speculate what, what was going on because I couldn't wrap my brain around it. I've seen too much to understand how that's even allowed to happen. I couldn't understand why. Only reason I thought, like, is this orchestrated? I don't know what is going on because nobody came to check on Chris. Nobody came to see if he was okay. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? He's the person on stage. Why are you not checking on him? Why are you running this nut who's running around slapping people? What's going on? I don't understand what world we're in right now. Why didn't you check on him and see if he's okay? See if he's injured. See if he needs medical attention. See if, something internal could have happened when you hit somebody in their face. Nobody checked on him. They left him up
That's
there.
what he hit him. And that's the killer part. Like, why would you hit Chris at all people? Go hit Augusta. Go hit him. He the one did what he did to your wife.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I didn't understand the inhumane way. Once I saw initially, I didn't see anything because I don't watch award shows,
Right.
So I was on the phone with a client who was trying to explain it to me. I was like, well, that sounds crazy. And then I saw little clips that had been edited or augmented. And eventually I saw the full clip. And then I had a lot of questions. That's all I have is questions. I have no idea what happened or why, but I don't understand how he was allowed to walk around and then turn his back and just leave like he did nothing, go back to his seat. I didn't understand that. That was an assault. I didn't understand why nobody came to check on Chris. He looked over to his side after it happened, like, nobody came to his aid. Nobody. That was the most messy. I don't understand it. I have so many questions. I don't have any judgments. I don't have any assessments. I just got questions. I don't understand it.
Neither do I. And it's so sad because the children, what do you I'm trying to figure out what message are they sending to these young artists that's trying to become something in life, and they looking at this here. Bad enough we had to deal with our community as fighting with each other first, like battling with gun violence and violence, period. What message? I didn't get
The
that. What message?
message is you can get upset over a movie reference to and go up there, walk on stage and slap a comedian. That was the message they sent. And you can go back to your seat. You can later receive an award, and Denzel Washington and Tyler Perry will come check on you after you assaulted somebody. And then you can go to the after party and dance, and footage be all over with you dancing and having the time of your life after assaulting somebody. And no one ever checked on the person who was assaulted. He was left up there on stage by himself. What kind of nonsense? I don't understand. I got a lot of questions. I don't understand.
I do too. But getting back, your questions that I have for you. Um, we could go on and on with this here, but it's all unanswered questions to Chris, Will, Jada. It's so many unanswered questions. But my question is, because you have a lot of degree underneath your belt, sister, you have what was your best subject, your worst subject, your dislike subject in school?
um, I say I didn't really have any bad subjects. I made straight A's from seventh grade on. But my favorite would be math, and that was like a no brainer for me. Math didn't get challenging until probably I've had every math there is. I was a math minor by default because I've had every math course there is. But it probably got challenging. Calculus 1, 2 were easy in college. Differential equations was easy. Mathematics was integral algebra. I'm sorry, integral algebra was easy for me. Calculus 3 was challenging in college. I think that was one of my last math courses. It was challenging because it deals with abstract and imaginary sequences. And that was hard to wrap my brain around. I was like, what? I didn't like that at all. I used to get in bed and do my math homework for fun, watching TV, always since seventh grade, all the way through college, taking every math class there is. But Calculus 3, I had to sit up and get some coffee and put some glasses on because I did not understand Calculus 3. I mean, I got through it and I aced it or whatever, but that was a challenge. Physics was a challenge at first in college. I'd take physics 1 and 2, and I didn't take physics in high school. So physics was a different concept for me. I took advanced placement chemistry and regular chemistry in high school, college placement chemistry in high school. So physics was a brand new concept for me. So that took a little getting used to. But math and science were my easiest subjects and my favorite subjects. Sometimes history will be a challenge because I don't like reading, believe it or not. I just don't. And so history was a lot of reading, and I was like, ugh, I didn't like that at all. So it was challenging, but I did what I had to do, in terms of history. And I think when the turning point for history, when I got into history, was when I took a poli-sci class and another type of class, and someone, might even my dad, explained to me that, law students, their basis is, the poli-sci and the history classes and da 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 da. And then it became of interest to me, because I have a propensity toward, law, and my background being in contract law. It became more interesting. The details became more interesting to me. So I think it was like a shift in perspective.
Well, I wanted to read some of the comments they had spoke upon you. Roundtree, she says, speaking the truth, my sister. And this is what she said, speaking the truth. I'm watching on her TV. And then she gave us the Black Sister Promise. So yes. And then she told me, and this is what caught my attention. She said, stick with her, Bonnie. You can learn from her. Love, heart. She's very intelligent, very knowledgeable.
Thank you.
She could be a good mentor for you. Yes, she is. This is look, I'm claiming her as my sister, okay? Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Look, yes, I am clearing. I'm claiming, okay? I'm claiming Sister Char. Okay, that's it. I'm claiming her. She's my sister now. I'm in the sisterhood. Yes, and Roundtree said I just follow her on IG.
Thank
And
you, love. Follow me on IG. I mean, on YouTube also is Char-Town ENT. I need all the support I can get. People, can I say this real quick, Bonnie? People don't understand fully how social media works, so I produced in 1 year almost 160, almost 170 shows in 1 year between my two platforms. I've had over 300 guests in less than 1 year. But I need people send me fan mail, but they don't click like. They send me fan mail, but they don't share it. But they'll share Kevin Samuels. They'll share Will Smith smacking Chris Rock, but they won't share content or new content that they like. And so the way that you show how much you really like and motivate us to continue to create platforms that are unique, that are unlike other platforms, that are introspective, thought-provoking, is that you tell other people by sharing that content that you like so much, by sharing those shows. Bonnie came in with both feet, running. She liked everything and she was commenting on every single post she ever missed. And I was like, if I could get 10, 15 people, not even 100, 10, 15 people to do that, to share it, to click like, to say publicly, don't tell me I was there. I appreciate your fan mail, but don't tell me I was there. Tell some people that you liked it. Don't hit me up privately. Tell some people, and the downside for me is I'm in a unique position where most of my followers are in industry, and industry doesn't necessarily support industry until you don't need their help.
Exactly.
You want me to say that again? They don't support you until you don't need their help. Industry doesn't support industry until you don't need their help. But they'll say something to me when I come back, say, well, I like your show. Oh, I like your book. Oh, I saw you. Congratulations on this. You know what I mean? But they don't support you in droves until you don't need their support. You know what I mean? And so that is the downside of it. Not saying I don't have some amazing friends or whatever, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the majority of the people who follow me do so in silence. They won't share. They won't click like. They work in the same industry. They only support people when they don't need your support, when they could care less what you want, what you're doing. Once they get the approval of the masses, then they start to support other entertainers.
Yes.
And other creatives, you know what I mean? Or even other business leaders. When you need their support and when you need their endorsements, the masses do not support publicly. They tell you privately, oh, congratulations on your book. Congratulations on this. I was like, say it out loud. Don't tell me.
Tell the world. Tell the world. Don't
yes, so I'm starting to let the public know. Please, please, please follow YouTube, Facebook, IG, my live broadcast. Everything is Char-Town ENT, as you can see on my under my face. Char-Town ENT on YouTube, Char-Town ENT on Facebook, Char-Town ENT on Clubhouse, Char-Town ENT on Twitter, Char-Town ENT. I don't care what platform it is. Put in Char-Town ENT. I'm going to pop up. So follow. Thank you.
My godmother, she said, my godmother Roundtree said, gotcha. 2 thumbs up. I will follow her on YouTube. I don't do Facebook. I'm trying to I'm laying low on Facebook, and and she said
she's picking up when I'm putting down. Thank you, love. I appreciate it. But everything's on YouTube. Share the post. If you see an interview, if you see some of the guys you like, click share. Send it to your girlfriends. Text it. You know what I mean? That's all I need. Tell a friend. And so that will help things grow.
Tell a friend, tell a cousin. That's it.
What'd you say?
Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a cousin, tell a friend.
Like the analytics don't lie. I've had hundreds of thousands of views on It Is What It Is, How Men Think. It's taking me a year to get to 1,000 follows. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Yes. So y'all sitting there watching with your legs crossed, but you won't share it. You won't click like, but you tell me about it. You know what I mean?
When I see, let me tell you what I do. Now, maybe this can help you all just a little bit. When you see that name pop up, hit that little bell. That bell gonna pop up.
Yes.
You put the bell on Facebook. You can put the bell on YouTube. You can put the bell on Instagram. Let me tell you something. Once that bell pick up, just don't ignore it. Don't scroll down. Don't press your clear button on your thing. Look, you go tell your cousin, tell Pookie, Ray, Vandisha, Keisha, Misha, and Adisha, those people, and then tell Kiki, Katie, and Ashelina, and Nelly, all of them. Okay.
Yes,
because
they just added the bell on Instagram recently. They used to have a bell. You said just follow and then you get the notifications. But now I only set new algorithms. They just add that bell not too long ago and other stuff. But you know what the sad part is, Bonnie? Now, if somehow we were in studio together and I choked the hell out of you, we would have so many ratings. They'd be sharing this everywhere. But we're talking about something positive. We're talking about educating young people. We're talking about, checking on someone who was assaulted. We're talking about how to be a blessing to people in this industry. Deaf ears, maybe 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 people will eventually say, oh, that was good. But no, if I choke the hell out of you, they'd be like, oh my God, did you see Bobby's podcast? So that's the sad part of the sick world we live in. You know what I mean? Or if I said something super ignorant to you, disrespected you, made you cry or something, or made you rethink your whole life, then people would share it. But they won't share me uplifting you or other people, or, destiny, or how to, follow your vision, follow your dreams. They're not going to share that, but they will share somebody getting smacked doing their job. Y'all wild. Y'all wild. That's all I got to say. Y'all wild.
And let me tell you this, and this may be a strong word too. I hope I'm saying this right. Lord, please forgive my tongue, hold my tongue compassionately. Poverty of our community, poverty of our skin, poverty of our African American people, period. We need to come together instead of giving people to talk about. We don't need to give nobody to talk about. Poverty is everything.
You're saying poverty, correct?
Yes.
Poverty is not financial. It's mental. It's mental. People are mentally impoverished. People are mentally challenged. People are mentally pulling other people down. That is the poorest state to be in. It's not monetary. It's where you are spiritually and having a deficit spiritually. That's the worst form of poverty. And that's what people are suffering from. They get off on looking at other people, things happen to other people that they think don't deserve to be successful in the first place. That's why they jump on the bandwagon. It's a sickness in our society, and then people insert themselves into things that have nothing to do with them. There are people championing someone, hitting someone, doing their job as their hero because you made bad decisions, because your baby daddy didn't do what you wanted him to do, because your boyfriend in 11th grade didn't, respect you the way you thought you should. Carrying around all kinds of baggage that has nothing to do with Will Smith, but he's your champion. That's a sickness. That's a sickness. One, you don't know that man from a can of paint. If you were on fire, he probably wouldn't spit on you, but he's your hero. Y'all wild. Y'all wild. You know what I mean? You don't know him from a can of paint, and he don't know you. And if you needed help, he probably wouldn't help you. You made that up in your brain about this connection you have with this person you don't know from a can of paint, and now he's your hero. Y'all wild. Y'all are wild.
That's too much wildness. But let me. I wanted to ask you.
Yes, love.
I don't know if I asked you earlier, but I always like to ask this question. Who is your biggest influencer and why?
My biggest influencer, I think, like I say in my book, life is a series of defining moments, and so I believe everybody you need to know, everybody you need to meet, every resource you need is at arm's reach, because that's the way God ordained it. That's the way the universe was designed, for you to be everything you were created to be. So I think at different points in my life, influences happen. But I would say one of my biggest influences was my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, who's now deceased. She had a 10th grade education, and she raised a generation of greatness. She raised the first Black fire chief ever in the city of Greensboro, and he just had a firehouse named after him in December 2021. The only Black fire chief in the history of Greensboro, North Carolina. A woman with a 10th grade education raised that man. Along with her husband, my grandfather, they were together for 56 years before his death. He had a 6th grade education. So a man and a woman with a 10th and 6th grade education raised the first Black fire chief. They raised 5 sons and 1 daughter, my mother, to be an educator, and then raise a child who has the first entertainment and sports management company in the history of our country, of our family. She raised grandchildren who are doctors and who are vice presidents of companies, and 10th grade and 6th grade education raised 2 generations, going on 3 generations of greatness. That inspires me. Where little becomes much, when you place in the master's hand, all they knew was to pray and somehow bless my children, teach us to do the right thing by them and bless our children. That influences me. That it's not about your stature in life. It's not about your humble beginnings, but to me, it's about faith that all things are possible. When you trust God, when you live humanely among other people, treat people you want to be treated. And I hate to reemphasize it was the basis of who I am. People always say everything I touch turns to gold. Well, that's Bible. In your due season, everything you touch will prosper. If you just stay faithful to what God has assigned for you to do, everything you touch will prosper. Everything you touch will turn to gold. And so it's a reflection of that. And it's not about me. It's about anyone who remains steadfast to who they were created to be. Be humane in how you treat people, honor people, treat people where you want to be treated, and just remain steadfast, remain unmovable in your faith. And in your season, everything you touch will prosper. You won't go with the wind. You won't go this way or that way. You will remain the same for 26 years of your career. No one will say she's flaky. No one will say, she's sometimey. No one will say she's can't be depended on. You'll be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, and in your season, everything you touch will turn to gold.
Ooh. You almost had me in tears because I'm like, she is really preaching it to me, y'all. Everybody, she is really preaching it to me because oh my goodness, I needed to hear that tonight because I had for the past, I want to say a couple of months, I had some trials and tribulations. I dealt with some death in my family, and my cousin who was like a sister to me passed away in her sleep, and I still had questions about that, and it was like messing with me. I couldn't think straight. And then my mother and I, she was like, "Oh, you got this thing called dyslexia." I told her, "No, I don't. I don't claim something I don't have.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't claim it because I know the man upstairs got me today." Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I had to pray over it, and I prayed over it. I said, "Lord, if I got this, just take it away from me. Just exist it out of my life. I don't want it." But
exactly.
man, thank you. And
life be lifing, but people always say that, my smile is infectious, or, that's the part that stands out. I just really believe that when you've been through a lot in life, that God gives you something to hold on to. He gives you one thing that becomes your constant, your reminder that he's still God. And for me, it's my smile. In the Bible, it talks about when the Israelites were crossing Jordan, and what are these stones? These stones are a reflection of what we went through as a people to get to where we are. And so sometimes you don't look like what you've been through, but my smile is my stone to remind me that God is still God and he's still in control no matter what I've been through.
Yes, yes, yes. And like I said before, yes, my mother and I we just had some back and forth conversation. I told her, I don't have this message. You got this message. I'm like, I don't have it. And it dawned on me, and I looked, because I was in my mind, I was like, my cousin out here, she normally come on my platform. She was like, yeah, cuz you're doing it. It's like, what's left, what died, when she died, it was like a piece of me died with her.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know if I can go on with this. And I had called a lot of people up. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? It was like, Bonnie, just be Bonnie. Michael Kaya. Thank you, Uncle Michael Kaya, because I don't know if I even had this conversation with you today. And it was like tearing me apart all couple of weeks. It was just tearing me apart. I said, you know what? I know a person that could fix this. And I gave Michael Kaya a phone call. I said, Uncle Mike, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can go. He was like, Bonnie, what's the matter? I said, I'm dealing with 2 deaths. I had 2 deaths the beginning of February. My cousin trying to commit suicide, jumped out the second floor, broke her hip, and then she died 2 weeks after. Then my cousin from Minnesota came to Chicago for my cousin's funeral. She died at my uncle's house in Gary, Indiana, messed up my mother's head. I'm trying to figure out, I'm not there. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my mom's thinking. I don't know what my uncle's thinking. And I'm like, let me recuperate. Let me sit back.
Mm-hmm.
Let me talk to my ancestors. Let me get the universe together within me. So when I thought about that, I said, you know what? What would she have told me
Mm-hmm.
was this it.
Yeah.
Bonnie, I'm proud of you. I'm very proud of you. Keep doing what you doing. And this is
Mm-hmm.
her last words, and I will never forget.
Mm-hmm.
Keep doing what you doing, because I'm proud of you. You doing your podcast. I'm proud of you. You've been through so much.
Yeah.
Now you open up to where I wanted you to be.
Yeah.
And that brought tears to my eyes when I stood there over her casket. I stood there at least about a good hour,
Mm-hmm.
holding her hand because I could not believe it. Nobody could not tell me this.
Mm-hmm.
Was she died? Piece of me died. But I wanted to say thank you, sister. I'm gonna read some of these few comments because a lot of them just popped in.
Well, I want to
Um,
say, I can fully relate to that, Michael, and also I can relate to Michael Collier. Michael Collier has been my friend since 1996. We met in 1996. That's how long Michael has known me. And
wow.
yeah, he did my show also. Crazy. He's so funny. But yeah, I love Michael. He's been the real deal since I met him. Yeah, so I've known him about 26 years as well. So we met, yeah, 96, I want to say it was 90, maybe late 95. So yeah, you can ask Michael
Yes,
about me. So we've been friends a long, long
I
time. Um,
did.
he has a good heart. He's one of my, I always tell him, he's one of my favorite storytellers. I was like, I can see a bit that you have done a million times. And every time I see you tell that old joke alert or whatever, I just like I'm hearing it for the first time. I'm sitting there kikiing like I've never heard this before. And so he's just so, his energy is unmatched. And he's just good people. So yeah, I love Michael. The other thing is I can fully relate to the devastation of losing someone who's close to you. Last October a year and some months ago now. I think it was this October 21, October 2020. I had just done, I think, my second episode or maybe third episode of It Is What It Is, How Men Think. And so I had this cousin who was extremely close to me. We were inseparable since she was 4 days old. That's how close we were. And so when we were little girls, I was like, this is my baby. And after school, I would go take care of her every day. She only lived 5 minutes away. My uncle only lived 5 minutes with one of my mom's other brothers. Out of the five brothers, my mom's the only girl. And I would go over there every weekend. She was at my house. I was taking care of my baby. And so, as she got older, I got my first house at 23, 24 years old. She had a room in my house
Wow.
by this time. She's a teenager, and almost finished high school. And so we were inseparable. And so
Yes.
as she got, as I got older, and she was still, young, in that teenage years, she became more like my daughter, so she looked up to me. I look back at pictures and everything. She was in all our family photos, like how you get in here? That's how close we were, every family reunion, she's at our table. She's not supposed to be sitting there, we were inseparable. And October 14th, I guess around midnight, she died suddenly. And
Mm.
all three of her children, my godchildren. And
Oh, wow.
when I tell you that was the worst pain I think I've ever experienced in my life. And I've had some painful things happen in my life.
Yes.
It felt, I didn't even understand it. I'd had a really great show that Tuesday. So, so the day changes midnight. I guess it was a little bit after midnight when it happened. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I get a text from my goddaughter, and she was a preemie when she was born. She's little, but she's grown now. She was 20. I guess 2021, about turned 21 at the time, but she's 4'9". She ain't big as nothing. She texts me and we talk like her and her mom and I have always talked. She's like a continuation of her mom. So we have marathon conversations. She hits me up anytime. She takes that godmother thing to the hilt. Everything she runs by her parents. I want to know what you think, though. My parents already do. I want to know what my godmother thinks. So everything. There's nothing she won't talk to me about since 2 years old. And so she texts me, and I got this text. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with her? What's she doing now? It's 3:00 in the morning, but it's not unusual. I looked at the text and it said, it's my mom. She died. I don't know how to feel. And I'm thinking, like, what kind of young people lingo is this? And I was like, I didn't understand what she was trying to tell me. And I mean, it felt like, as I kept reading it over and over again, and I was like, what in the world is she talking about? I mean, because I didn't know my cousin was sick or anything. You know what I mean? We've always been super close, and so I tried to call her. She didn't answer. I happened to be at my parents' house, so I was out of town. And so thank God, because I don't know how I would have been if I'd been by myself and it sunk in what this child was trying to tell me. And so I went downstairs to my parents' room at 3:30 in the morning. I'm knocking on the door. And so my mom was like, are you okay? I was like, no. I said, I think Tasha died. All the lights in the house came on because that's my god baby. Tasha was her god baby. You know what I mean? And so that's her, niece, but it's also her godchild. And she was like, what? And I was like, I don't know. I said, she just texted me and said her mom died. And so it was the worst night of my life. And I think up until this past November, 13 months felt like a blur. Like I was moving in slow motion, going through the motions in a daze, and people couldn't pick up on that. You know what I mean? I never missed a beat. I produced 160 shows while walking through a maze, 300 guests, negotiated deals, produced client shows, 50 client shows, and all while, and on top of the ones I just mentioned. So a total of over 350 shows I produced in a year, going through the motions and trying to keep my sanity to the point where, people congratulate me on the show. You mentioned, Ali Sadiq. I'm like, what show is that? That was real, because I can't remember all that. I look back now, like, what happened on this show? And I'm looking, because that's where God carries you. That's when you're so devastated, you're coming or going. God carried me through all those episodes, all those conversations. I wasn't present. I was going through the motions, and God allowed it to look flawless.
And I want to read some of your the comments too.
Oh, go ahead.
Bonnie, woo woo woo, just passing through. Woo woo woo. That's the Michael Kaya thing. The woo woo woo. The W.
Okay.
Men come together better than women. I agree. That's 100% sure. Angel, the instant lady, Auntie Angel. She says, I love her for that. I am like that. Blow your own mind, and you can't help but success in your own destiny, on love, on purpose. D Caparel, she said hi, Bonnie and guest. Angel, the instant lady, also says, we punked what he looks like, walking back to his feet. Sticky stones may break your bones, but words should never hurt. The man Moore, who was in the reference of in the film, and then African Jones just gave us a heart, and DiCaprio just gave us flowers. Thank you all for tuning in. I do have Miss Sharp Entertainment. Matter of fact, I'm gonna rephrase it. My sister, Sharp Town. Not Char-Town, Char-Town. Entertainment.
I talk about in the book where Char-Town came from. So yeah, people always ask me, how'd you name it Char-Town? You from Chi? I was like, nope. It's in the book where the Char-Town name came from. And so it's really a cool story where Char-Town came from. So
and how can people get your book?
You can go to, for instance, this is the book. Mike Epps wrote the foreword to it. I don't know if you guys can see it. I don't know really how to hold the book.
Just one
this
thing.
Is the book. Okay, now I got it. Okay, so this is a book. You can go to my website and get signed copies. Char-Town.com. CHAR. Oh, wait, it's right here. It's right above my head. Go to Char-Town.com. Go to Char-Town.com. It's right above my head. Go to that
And I'm gonna type
website.
it
The
in
top
too for
banner.
the
Click
ones
the
that
top
don't
banner.
know.
Huh?
I said I'm gonna type it in for the ones
Yes.
that don't know.
Yes. So right above my head is the website. Go to that website. There's a banner. As soon as you get to the website talking about the book, click that banner. It'll take you to the order page. So,
Yes.
yeah. So how to order should
Char-Town.
be at the bottom of the page once you click that banner. So just scroll down and order now. Should be on that page.
It's kind of harder for me to. There we go. Char-Town.
Yeah.
Dot.
Char-Town.com. There's a dash in there.
Yeah. And period.
Yes.
There we go.
Char-Town.com. Yes, that's it.
Yes. See,
Yeah, it's right above my
that's
head.
it.
Yes, ma'am. That's it.
And I'm putting a star on it for you all to know. Char-Town.com. Not
Yes, you can
Chi-Town.
get yes,
Char-Town.
you can get signed copies there. Thank everybody for allowing my book to sell out 4 times internationally. I appreciate you guys. I never saw that coming. People had asked me for 20 something years, when's your book coming out? And that's why I was saying to you, Bonnie, people see your destiny, see your purpose long before you do. I didn't know what this journey, I didn't have aspirations of being in entertainment. I didn't have aspirations of working with entertainers. I wanted 2 kids, a dog, a white picket fence, live a regular life, come home at 5 p.m. That's what I saw for myself growing up. But God had other plans, but when I call it relinquish to greatness. When you release it, surrender all, and decide, any way you bless me, God, I'm cool. You don't know what God's about to do in your life, And so it's not about the industry. It's where God chooses to use you. But I say that to say people see your purpose or the next stepping stone in your life long before you do. Strangers will ask me, when's your book coming out? I'm not working on a book. And so I remember I went to lunch with one of my friends who's vice president of programming at XM Sirius. We were just hanging out. I've known him since he was a program director at the local station. Now he's vice president of programming, and so of XM Sirius. And so he said, "When's your book coming out?" And I'm like, "I'm not working on a book." So he was like, "It's not if you're working on a book, it's how many." And then my mama was like, "I'm just your mom, but you give so much advice, and so many people, you've changed so many lives just by sharing stories or inspiring people. I think you should write a book, but I don't know anything about the industry." And I was like, "No, Mom, I don't think that's not what God has for me." So I said no for 20 years, and the messages kept coming more and more and more, right? So this is how God works. He hits you from the side, you know what I mean? And you don't even see it coming, so I'm working in entertainment, got all my clients, and I had the vision for the foundation, right? So I was scared about the foundation. That's a big thing, having something that's, about my vision, not about other people's vision. Char-Town Entertainment is about other people's visions and making those real. But the foundation was about my vision to be a blessing to kids far and wide, economically challenged, educationally challenged, the ones who think differently, the ones who they say is a class clown, the ones who they say is SLRD or ADHD or, what's wrong with him? A lot of times that's hidden genius, and I wanted to focus on those kids. Now it's about me, so I'm scared. The thing that gave me inspiration was the first person to ask me what I was working on was Mike. And so we were just talking on the phone, Mike EPPS. We were talking on the phone one day, and he said, "Yo, what's good? What you working on?" And I was like, "Nothing." I said, "I'm getting ready do this foundation for kids." I said, "It's called CTE Vision Foundation." So I'm trying to make that happen. I said my 501c3 certification just came yesterday, and I was just telling him about it. And he was like, "Yo, what we doing? What you need? What we doing?" I was like, "You don't have time to be worrying about what I'm doing. Yo, what we doing?" I was like, I guess I need national board members and ambassadors and stuff like that. Of course, what you need though. And that's how the
Yeah.
conversation went. So I felt like I'm doing the right thing. And then like a couple weeks later, I was sitting around talking to Tony Rock, and we were in the green room, and he was like, I said, yo, did I tell you I got a foundation I'm putting together? I said, I just got my 501c3 certification for unlimited funding and everything from IRS. And he was like, yo, what you need? What we doing? Where you need me to be? And I was like, you don't have time. You got the My Rock Foundation. He's like, yo, you family, what we doing? So both of them, like where one was on one side, one was on the other, and I felt like I'm doing the right thing. My folks got my back, my brothers got my back, and so
That's
it
right.
made me
Two
feel
big brothers
inspired,
wanted
you
to
know.
see
So
you progress and succeed in your book. I am truly happy that they convinced you.
yeah, but they were like,
Tony
I mean, I
Rock.
had done it. I had done the foundation, but I'm telling you how the book came to be. And so how I got my weight up, in terms of my nerve, because I never stepped out like about what
Yes.
Char wants. That was a whole nother thing. It was conquering other demons. And I want somebody needs to hear that, because for years I was battling, stuff I didn't know how to handle, things I'd been through, abuse,
Yes.
rape, assault, all these things that people never knew I was battling, but it affects your psyche, even though you're soaring, even though you're successful, even though, God has his hand on you. There are things you don't know how to deal with as a woman that affects how you see yourself and your ability to be invincible. And so, right,
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you, don't
Yes.
let me forget, Bonnie, to say how the book came into play with the foundation, but I want to do a quick caveat, because I think people need to hear how God moves, and they need to hear how I always said that every resource, every person, every connection, everything you need to go to the next level and what God has for you, there's a succession to greatness for you. And everything is at arm's reach. God positions people around you on your journey to push you to the next
Yes.
level. And so right before my book came out, right before I had a foundation, right before I stepped out for the first time on my own about what Char wanted to see happen for Char, I'm no longer pushing careers at only.
Right.
You know what I mean? Before, my whole life was about pushing other people to greatness, pushing other people to greatness, pushing other people to greatness, and making sure everybody felt comfortable because of the company I keep. Do you understand what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, you act so down to earth. That meant something to me. I needed people to be comfortable. One day I walked in the green room. It was the first time I met Charlie Murphy, and it changed my life.
And
One
what
of
was
my
that
artists
like?
was featuring for Charlie. I never met Charlie. Charlie didn't know me from a can of paint. I didn't know Charlie from a can of paint. And so after, artists come off stage, especially comedians, they do what I call hold court. So I had been introduced to Charlie right after he came off stage. And I came in the green room. My artist was in the green room. His cousin, Rich, who also represents Ashanti and uh I can't think of the other guy's name. It'll come to me. But anyway, that whole little sect of artists, he represents them, is an agent for them. He's in there. I just met him that night. We hit it off. We became friends. He's like, yo, Char, come in the green room, kick it. So I came and I'm sitting there afterwards. I'm sitting behind Charlie, right? This was a life-changing moment for me. I'm sitting behind Charlie. The other 4 people in the room are sitting over there. So Charlie's facing them, just telling stories, dropping gems, being Charlie Murphy. I'm sitting by the door
Right.
mainly because, Charlie's alternating Newports and weed. And so I'm like, I need to breathe. I have sinus issues. So I'm sitting near the door, but Charlie's facing this way. And so he's in the middle of a story and he stops in the middle of a sentence. Now, he doesn't know me. He's only met me like, hello. And he turns to me and says, like we had already been talking before, which we hadn't, and says, and you need to stop downplaying your greatness trying to make niggas comfortable. And I was like, talking to me? So he said, stop blocking your blessings. He said, stop standing in the way of everything God has for you because you scared you're going to make people uncomfortable. And he was so dead ass serious and looking at me. And he said, don't stop until you get what you came to get. And he was like, go after it with everything in your heart. He said, stop playing with it. So anyway,
Right.
like I was saying, went right back to his story. And I was like, what just happened? So it changed my life. It changed my perspective. And it was a progression But he was the seed that started that progression of stop being scared, stop making people,
Mhm.
trying to make people comfortable when God has called you to do something greater than what you're doing. There's a next step in your journey, and you're tiptoeing around it, trying to make
Right.
sure people don't think you're better than them or you feel like you're more important than them, trying to make people who don't even care comfortable. When he told me, stop trying to downplay your greatness to make other people comfortable,
Yeah.
that changed something in my spirit, because that really is a product of abuse. Anytime you've gone through something detrimental, it messes with your self esteem. It messes with how you
Yeah.
see yourself. It messes with your worthiness. No matter how accomplished you are, no matter how wealthy you are, no matter how successful you are, anytime you've been through any form of abuse, it messes with your worthiness factor. So you become this accommodating, let me make sure everybody's comfortable, even at my own demise robot.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? And that
Yes.
affects so many people, men and women. And so it stops them. They're in their own way. Because anytime you've had something that messes with your worthiness factor, your ability to see who you are, more importantly, who you are, it stunts your growth temporarily. So him speaking life into me changed my perspective, and a progression started. So when I started working on the foundation, which was
Mm-hmm.
a dream come true, and me getting out the way and not downplaying the next level what God's about to do, I thought about it. I said, well, gosh, I need some marketing material. That was my
Right.
thought, And so I said, maybe I'll write a book real quick. That's what I thought. And so, because I've already released Carl Weber and Omar Tyree, and I got all these New York Times bestsellers as clients. And, I've released some indie authors. I've released several indie authors. And I mean, I know the literary world, so let me write a book real
Right.
quick. And that was my thought. I tried, and people tell me I'm a decent storyteller. So I tried to write this book. Had 12 horrible pages after I followed all the advice of everybody, because I was like, well, I know all the top authors. I called Carl, and I said, Carl, I'm going to write a book. Any advice? So I called Carl Weber. I was like, any advice? He had 30 New York Times bestsellers under his belt. I'm going to work on one book. I'm like, you got any advice? So he said, well, what you writing? Fiction or nonfiction? I said, well, it's going to be nonfiction because it's about my life. It's about life-changing
Right.
moments. He said, well, hell, you know how that story ends. He said, it's like, it's only when you writing fiction, you got to let your imagination take over. You know how nonfiction ends.
And Carl Weber, he keep it 100 to people too. I spoke on, I had to look up when I Google you up and I did all my research, and when I Google Carl Weber, I'm like, but good Lord, this man is the realest. I didn't know that he was that real.
Who?
So Carl Weber.
Carl
I did
Weber.
not know.
Oh yeah, I produced his
I did not
national movie
know.
premiere, Man in 3B, with Kirsten Keys and Lamont Rucker. We've been working together since 2002. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's when I talk about how we met unexpectedly. That's in the book also. There's some good stories in there, some good things that will inspire people and let you know how organic things happen. And I mean,
Yeah.
God has always blindsided me with blessings. It's not like I'm working towards something. I didn't see none of this stuff coming. And that's what the book is about, how one moment, one unexpected interaction, one unexpected exchange can change everything suddenly. God can take whatever's going on in your life, good, bad, or indifferent, and flip that
Yeah.
switch so quick, and you find yourself in a different place unexpectedly. You'd be like, how did I get here? You could be sitting there working at CBS and God decided, yeah, I need you at the Grammys. God can do that suddenly. But y'all ain't hearing me. Y'all ain't hearing me.
I'm hearing you, sister. I'm hearing you.
So, I
You
mean,
got my
once
undivided
you
attention.
take the blinders off and stop listening to the indoctrination of what people say is possible, stop listening to people. I said one time, one of my multi-platinum producers, mega producers, I met with him and his wife, and I said, indoctrination is the end of innovation. It impedes you from being everything you were designed to be. People get so caught up in, biblical
Yes.
references and little boxes of indoctrination instead of opening your mind to spiritual growth and freedom. You
Mm.
know, the ability, I can really do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You get stuck on Jesus wept or whatever little verse you choose to look at for the rest of your life and decide that's where your story ends. Or there's merit in long suffering. That's just a small piece. Expand your mind. Indoctrination impedes innovation. It stops you
Yes.
when you get focused on just indoctrination. It stops you from being everything you were ordained to be. And so
Mm.
that was something I had to learn. So when I decided I was going to write a book real quick, it wouldn't come together. I had 12 horrible pages after 6 months. And I was like, God, this is not working. This might not be your will for my life. And so
But
I
God
hit my,
used you and he said, you know what? I got something else for you to write. He probably
no,
snapping in
no, it
your
was the same
sleep.
book. No, it was the same book. I just couldn't
Mm.
get it together. And then I hit my lowest point, like I did so many times ultimately in the book or in my life at the time. And I prayed. I said, God, I don't know what I'm doing. And I said, I thought it was a good idea to write a book. I said, if it's in your will, do just one thing one more time. I said, and let me become an author and somehow write this book through me. And honestly, Bonnie, I don't know what happened, but 3 months later, I had a book. And when I sat down
Mm.
and sat with my master editor, it was like I was reading it for the first time. And there was no doubt in my mind, God wrote that book. And so it has touched so many people worldwide, and I've gotten so much fan mail and so many letters and emails. And I mean, it's just been overwhelming. Men, white men, black men, agnostic, atheist, Christians, people from Germany, Dubai, South Africa, Australia. It's overwhelming when they say it changed how I saw myself. And
Yes.
so I was like, what in the world? Because you can't predict, one, how anything you produce is going to touch other people's lives. You can't
Hmm.
predict,
No,
and
you
you
can't.
can't predict how the anointing over your life is going to make the difference in somebody else's life. I can't control that. And so it's an outer body experience when people respond. And even after selling out one time, I still didn't see myself as an author. And I'm getting all these
Wow.
calls to be at NAACP National Convention on the main stage, at Congressional Black Caucus on the main stage. And I'm like, I'm just going. I would still tell you, I got a book. You know, I didn't see myself as an author. And the first person I gave a copy to when it first arrived in my office a week early was Don
Mm-hmm.
D.C. Curry. And I just happened to be going to see him that night, go hang out. And the books
Mm.
came, and I was like, oh, snap. So I opened up one of the boxes. Me and my sister, we opened up one of the boxes, and I said, look. And I was like, I just grabbed one, put it in the bottom of my purse, and went to the show, watched the first show, didn't say anything, watched the second show. I guess I got there midway the first show, watched the second
Right.
show, still didn't go backstage. I went backstage after the second show, right? So he was like, come on in here, girl. You know how Don DC Curry talks. And so I went in, we're sitting there talking for about a half hour and catching up. And he said, I just told my road manager. He said, I wonder if she's coming through tonight. And so I said, yeah, you know, I got to come check on you. And so when there was a lull in the conversation, I said, I got a book. You want to see it? I mean, that's how I felt. I mean, I didn't know what to, it was never about me before. I mean, I released Carl
Right.
Weber, Omar Tyree, all these, Dwayne Joseph, all these other people. I didn't know what to do with my own product. So I said, I got a book. You want to see it? And so he was like, what? I was like, I got a book. You want to see it? And so he was like, you got a book? I was like, yeah. He's like, I guess I want to see it. So I reached out in my purse and I handed him the book. He was like, oh, you wrote a book. He was like, this is major. He's like, girl, I'm proud of you. And so he was like, when did you get here? I was like, middle of the first show. He's like, and you ain't give me, he said, you ain't come on stage or get my attention. We could have been selling these MFs tonight. So I was like, and I felt like I can do it. This is a thing. You know, I felt like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
And Don was so supportive. I didn't have my website set up, anything. The next day he was on his platform like, yo, my friend has a book. Go to her website. Dude, I didn't have nothing on my website. I wasn't even ready for the love people were showing me. I was like, oh my God. I called my branding guy and I was like, you got to throw up a page or something, a link or something. I said, because Don has told people they can order this book. Because it came
Right.
a week early. I didn't even know. And so I didn't know what to do for myself. I've done stuff for thousands of careers, literally from the White House to the boxing ring. And I was like, I've worked with Ben Carson and Candy and their sons. I know Michael Bloomberg. And, I've worked with so many people. Especially with my involvement with children with cancer. So that's how I know Dr. Carson,
Yes.
because he was head of our medical board of directors for 17 years. And so I've known Dr. Carson for since I was 18 years old. I've known Dr. Carson. And
That's a
so
long
I watched
time.
before he and Candy even have children, probably right before he got married, I've known him, since I was a teenager, 18 years old. So my relationships run so deep and they run so long,
Yes.
but I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know what I was going to do with this book. And fear set in again, like it did with Colin Powell and Bob Johnson. And when I was talking at the beginning of this interview, fear set in again. I'm like, who's going to read this? After I wrote it, I was like, how this going to go? And so I remember Mike, I had gone to see Mike and he had told me to write the foreword for me, right? Because we had run into each other in it. I wasn't going to ask anybody to do anything for me. I never asked my friends for anything. And so we ran each other in Hollywood. And he was like, he's like, I felt you were here somewhere. He was like, what you working on? I said, I got a book coming out. I'm working on a book. He's like, he said, what you need? I was like, nothing, what you need? And he was like, so then he was like, I'm not going to say no, what you need? And so I said, well, you can write the foreword, I guess. I don't know. So he was like, all right, bet. But what you need? And I was like, I'm good. And so that's how it happened. So when I needed the foreword, I did a drive-by at one of his shows, one of his concerts in some arena. And I was like, I need my foreword. So he started just knocking out in between shows. So he was like, I'm going to record the foreword. He's like, and I'm going to do some drops. He said, so that'll help you push the book. He said, let me know if you need anything else. I hadn't even thought about drops. That was all Mike. I hadn't even thought about it. So when the book came out, I was like, when Don DC Cross said, well, you want to do a drop for me since I didn't say anything while you were on stage? And he's like, all right, let's get it. And so he did a drop. And then the next time I saw him, I think maybe 6 months, a year later, this time I've sold out probably 2-3 times. And I told him ahead of time. I was like, I'm here. He's like, got you. He said, you got a copy of the book with you? And so he took it on stage. He talked about it and gave me a shout out. And we recorded that. And so that became another drop, him live on stage talking about my book and how many times he had read it and how good he thought the book was. And so it was just dope. And then everybody just started doing drops for me. Tony Baker and Rodney Perry surprised me with like a 3-minute talk about my book. I woke up one morning and he had posted this talk about my book. And it had like, I don't know, several thousand views. By the time I woke up, I'm like, what is this? I was literally in tears when I clicked play. I didn't know anything about it.
And shout out to Tony Baker, because that's how I wound up following you too. Between Tony Baker, I'm telling you, Tony Baker, he don't mind supporting nobody. If you don't, you gotta be the one that support him, and he'll support you back. That's one thing I found out about Tony Baker.
I had met Tony Baker when I asked him. I said, "You want to do a drop in my book?" He said, "Yo, what's it about?" So I told him, but I had met him, I think, one time before. I think, or maybe, well, that wasn't the first time I met him. I think I met him one time before, if I'm not mistaken. Right. It might have been the first time I met him. We had ended up sitting in the green room talking for a long time. The first time I met Rip Michaels, we sat and talked for like 2 hours, off and on between shows, after shows. And so then I was like, yo, I got this book out. And he's like, yo, what's it about? He's like, I know it's dope. So I told him. And so I said, you want to do a drop? He did 2 drops for me that night. And so one outside, one inside. He did pictures. Then I ran into JB Smooth, I think, after I probably sold out about 3 times, maybe not, because I've already sold out 4. So maybe the 3rd time I sold out, I ran into JB Smooth around that time frame. And I was, after his show, I was telling him about the book. He said, that resonates with me. He started sharing stuff from his life that were life changing moments and how God changed his perspective. And he was like, yo, let's take some pics with your book. And he was setting up the pictures. We did a whole photo shoot with my books. I was like, that's love. I mean, because I had just reconnected with him. I hadn't seen him in 20-something years. I didn't even think, he would remember me. But regardless, he showed ultimate love and did a whole photo shoot with my book. So that's where those pictures with JB come from. He was like, okay, now look over my shoulder while I'm reading your book. And do that. I mean, he was like orchestrating the whole thing. And I was like, he's so dope. And I don't know. Everybody just showed so much love. D.L. Hughley, he was supposed to really write the other foreword. And I D.L. in time. So when I saw him again, he's like, yo, what are we doing with the foreword? I was like, D.L., here's your copy of the book. I had to move on. So he said, oh, man. And so I said, but you can do drops for me. You want to do some drops for me? He's like, all right, let's get the drops. So he did the drops for me. That's how that came together. He did 2 or 3 drops for me. And so that's how it came together. But everybody showed so much love.
I want to know, how much is your books?
It is $20. Online, it is $17.95. And so I try to add a discount so that, I don't want it to be unaffordable for people. So, total, I think it's like $20 and a little bit of change or something like that.
I would like to get 2 books.
But I know that the thing is, I try to, do everything almost at cost, especially with postage, but postage has gone up drastically. They were making
I noticed that.
So up until like probably last year when they went up by almost $2 on sending stuff.
It sure did.
They went up twice in 1 year.
Yeah.
It just shot up. And so I was like, I can't help the postage, y'all. But yeah, so it's I made it $17.95 online to offset the postage. Because I don't know, that's just who I am. I just don't want people spending more than they have to, but I gotta cover the cost. So.
Right. Because I'm going to get a book from you. I'm definitely going to get a book from you. I'm going to get 2 books. And whoever, if y'all can share this to 15 people, 20 other people, I'm going to see how I'm going to do this. I'm going to see how I'm going to do this. If you all can share 15 people right now, 15 to 20 people right now, while I'm on this live, I'm going to read the comments. I got a surprise for each and one of you all who's going to do it. And if you all do it, I'm writing down my number. I'm going to write down the number. I ain't going to tell you all that because there's only 5 people showing on my end. If you all could subscribe, right? You all 5 people are watching right now. Subscribe, like, share, comments right now to 15 people, 20 people at the most. Don't share it all to the same people. Share it to different people. Different people. You're going to do 5 sets of 5s, 5 sets of 10s. Mm-hmm. Let's get this done, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to read out the comments. But if you all want this book, I'm going to do a number raffle. But it got to be 15 people on here because it's only 5. And if you all don't do it, you all won't get a book. And I just spend it on 1 book, and that'd be for me. So this is for my sister Char book. I want each and one of you all, raw 5 people right here that is watching, share this live. Share it because it's broadcast. It's broad live. Yes. I'm not ending it until 15 people can show up or more. If you all can get 15 people or more, I will raffle off this book. But if you all don't want to do it, then
it's a banger. So we've had some good, really, really amazing reviews. And I'm just so thankful because it was important to me to put out something of quality where people fall in love with you and your career and everything that's been happening in your life. And so that was the sentiment behind writing this book. I know, and this is not a slight, but I know so many people just put out stuff. They don't care whether you read it or not. It mattered to me if it resonated with people, if it blessed people to see life differently, see their own lives differently, encourage people to, have a little bit more faith, dig a little bit deeper, climb a little bit higher. You know what I mean? And that's what I picked those stories to share, those moments to share. It's not a watch me win book. It's a book of being at crossroads and watching God show up and show out unexpectedly. And that can happen for anybody. And it does, and so I think it was important to share the fears, the frustrations, the highs, the lows of totally reaching out on faith, surrendering to greatness, surrendering to what God has for your life, and saying, God, anyway you bless me, I'm cool. But when you do that, sometimes the unexpected happens. So I talk about my lowest financial moment in this book. I talk about God giving me, creating a house. I don't even know where that house came from, my first house. I saw it in a dream first, and then God made it real. And so I talk about all of that, because I know it's things that people can relate to, things that people go through. I talk about the fear of feeling like I done jumped out there too far in faith. I'm like, God, I think we doing too much right now. And so everybody has those moments. And so I talk about all of that. But the biggest compliment I continue to get from people is they say the way I tell a story, they feel like they were there in the moment. So that's a God-given
only God
to recreate moments and make people feel like they were present for that moment. And so I hope that, if you decide to buy a book, or if you win Bonnie's raffle, if she's able to do it, then it blesses you. You send me a picture, send me a note, and I have signed thousands and thousands. I've signed every single one. And it's not because I don't believe in certain things, but as my first book, it was important to me to connect with every single reader worldwide, and for them to know I saw their name, and for them to know that their purchase mattered to me. So I've signed thousands and thousands and thousands of books because it was important to me. If you spent your money to read about my story, I wanted you to know I saw your name personally. So I personalized every single one of those thousands and thousands of books we've sold. And so God just put it on my heart because people matter. And I wanted people to know it's not just a purchase. I saw your name, and I appreciate you even taking a moment to want to understand my vision or understand more about my life. And so that's the biggest blessing to me. Never lose the humanity part of things. People matter. I don't care where God takes me, people matter, and them taking time out of their lives, their schedule to even listen to your podcast, whether it's 5 people or 500, people gonna watch the playback because they nosy. So they gonna watch the playback, baby.
that part. And I wanted to read up what the comments are saying to you. I love these comments. Roundtree said, yes, Sonny, keep doing what you're doing. Podcast interview, Char is right. You don't know what God has in plan for you. Prayers. Yes, that is so true. I'm not giving up. Just know I'm not giving up. It was just my cousin passed away. My man was gone at one point in time. But guess what? This is my first year. April 16 is actually my anniversary, but I'm celebrating the whole entire month. So this is why I'm doing a raffle. You don't know unless you get up to 15 people. If I don't see 15 people, I can get a book for me and my daughter. Okay, we're gonna read while you out playing around. My God, DiCaprio said, yes, you're so true. Lady Angel, the instant lady, brilliant. She's real and she knows what she is. I will start following her and share her.
Thank you,
and
love. I appreciate
my godmother said, yes, speaking, Char, God is using you as a vessel.
Thank you, love.
Yes, that is a living vessel. It's a living vessel through Char. Let me tell you all something. When we talk about the vessel, and I don't want to start preaching because I ain't no preacher, but I am a custom Christian. But when we speaking about the vessel through God's word, comes over through the ear of a listener. I learned that from my great grandmother. Grandbaby, shh, grandma, I'm talking. I'm sorry, that's my grandbaby.
Okay.
I love you. Preach, teach, young lady. And Angel Love Gospel said, hello, everyone. She giving you a clap as well. And yes, God is good all the time. And I say this a lot. God strengthens our heart. God strengthens our heart through our mind.
Yes.
Through our vessel of our veins. God is our strength. God is our love because He is love.
Yes.
And my godmother said she will purchase a book from
Thank you,
you.
love.
Yes. And sorry about that, grandbaby's like so happy to see grandma. They haven't seen me in 2 weeks because I've been doing. I'm trying to, still recuperating from the passing of my cousins, and
Yeah, it takes like
you
grieving.
know,
Grieving is a moment to moment, second to second thing. Um, but for 6 months, it felt like someone was standing on my chest if I even tried to talk about it. Like I said, I think I just came out of my little matrix. Maybe November. I feel like I woke up and I could see life again a little bit. Some
yes,
pain you can't explain. Sometimes it's so inexplicable and mind numbing. I just asked God to keep me from week to week. I kept
yes,
doing the show. That next show was the hardest because I was like, God, if you can keep me from having a nervous breakdown live, I'll be so grateful. And I remember I had Clint Coley from All Deaf Digital on, Tony Roberts, who's absolutely hilarious, one of my dearest friends. He's ridiculously funny. And I'm trying to think, I think it was Trey Elliott. But those guys are so close to me, and they're so funny. They served as a distraction from the pain I couldn't even wrap my mind around. And so it got me
right,
through that next episode. It was exactly 1 week later. And I was going to give up because I was like, I can't do this. I can't. But I just kept every week. I was like, God, if you could just help me get through this episode,
right,
because that was my connection to the industry, is my connection to clients, during a pandemic where everything was shut down. That was my connection. And so I felt like if I let go of that, I might die. I couldn't let go
yes,
of the connection I had to the world during a global pandemic. And I was like, God, if you could just keep my mind and let me be able to be focused enough to be a part of my own platform, and have a
yes,
somewhat of an idea what I'm talking about, what I mean, and not drift off into whatever while I'm talking to these men every week. And I just kept asking God to keep me and keep my mind, and I looked up a year later of over 180 men have been on my platform, 190 now. Over 60 something shows have been produced while I was walking around in days but God, and so God's strength is made perfect in your weakness. So weakness isn't anything but God's chance to show up and show out in your life and let you know that He's still God. And so you have to see it that way when you go through things in life. You don't know what life is going to bring, but in your weakness, God's strength is perfected. And so it's just a time for God
exactly,
to be God and for you to lean fully on the one who created you and even your thoughts and your dreams. And so you just got to rely fully on God when the world snatches the carpet from under you and you feel like you don't know whether you're coming or going. It's God keeping you in the midst of it all.
yeah.
So
But I wanted to say thank you,
you're so
Sister
welcome,
Shar.
love. I
And
do have to
yes,
get ready to go. I would love to spend the
I'm trying to
whole
wait till
night with you,
everybody
but
come in, but it's like they coming one by one. Babies, they taking like baby stuff. Like, should I? Nah, I ain't gonna do it. It's like taking climbing up the stairs, but it's okay.
well, I will
Um,
have faith with you, but I do have some client stuff to do tonight.
well,
So
yes, and you know what? This is Char-Town. Everybody, go to chartown.com. I'm gonna buy your books tonight.
thank you, baby.
I love you, sister. And I'm going to
Love
say
you.
this here before we end: positive mind, positive energy. Don't let nobody take your joy away from you. If you do, you're taking it out of your own character. Do not mess up your brand. I love you guys. And I wanted to say thank you, sister, and good night.
Good night. Blessings to all of you. You're going to have so much success, sweetheart. Just keep following your heart and boldly do everything that God sends your way. If God sends an opportunity to you and you know that God sent it, don't worry about how you're going to accomplish it. Say yes and pray later. Say yes and pray later. I've spent a whole career saying yes, and like God will tell me what to
Yes.
do next time. I said yes to the Mayweathers. I said yes to Carl Weber. I said yes to Omar Tyree. I said yes to NFL players, and managing their, managing careers, negotiating commercial deals. I said, I ain't never negotiated a commercial deal for ESPN and NFL networks. Can you negotiate this deal? Yes, I can. God will tell me how later. I mean, so I've been spending my whole career saying yes to opportunities, and God has never let me down. I'm like, oh God, how I say yes to this man, how I'm gonna negotiate this deal with the NFL network. I
Oh
spent a whole
wow,
career
sis.
saying yes and praying about it later. I was like, and that's where my resume comes from, because won't he do it? And so God is
All the
not going to
time.
bring an opportunity to you that he's not going to allow you to flourish through, and the preparation has already happened. So say yes when the opportunity comes. So every
That's right.
trial, every tribulation, every learning experience is preparation for the next thing in your life. So when it comes, say yes. All those experiences were preparation for the unexpected. So I said yes to everything, negotiating commercial deals, negotiating contracts, negotiating deals I hadn't done before, Major League Soccer players as clients. Yeah, we can negotiate this sponsorship deal. We can endorse it and negotiate this endorsement deal, because I know business
Yes.
inside and out. If God brought it to me, he meant for me to have this deal. So say
Amen.
yes, pray about it later. God will tell you how to do it. He's not going to bring an opportunity to you and leave you out there to drown. Say yes, pray about it later.
Yes, and pray about it. That's it. That's all you can say. Say yes to God and say, you know what? Put it in your delivery, because
Yes.
your word is your bond to God.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sister.
You
I'm
welcome,
going to
love.
DM you my number too so we can chitty chat even more. But I wanted to say good night, ladies and gentlemen. We got to go. Time is everything. Char got to go because she got another interview tonight.
I
Y'all
do.
tune in tonight on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Hey,
And follow
all this be
Char-Town
the best.
ENT.
Good night. Good night,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Uh-oh.